Today I'm going to show you how to make this corset tube top. I have this t-shirt that I really like the image on. I don't wear t-shirts very often, so I thought I could make it into a corset and get more use for it. So what I'm going to do is isolate the image from the t-shirt, and I'm going to fold it in half so that way I can make sure that my image is symmetrical on my shirt. I want to make sure that the image is centered in the front of the corset top. So I've just hand sketched the shape that I want the corset to be. I don't have a pattern for this, so I am just cutting it by eye. I'm moving really slowly because you only get one chance to cut it correctly. I'm happy with my shape. I'm unfolding it so I can make sure that I like that. And now I'm going to be lining it with a dress shirt. I have this oversized white dress shirt that I don't wear anymore. So since the t-shirt material is really stretchy, I want it to be able to retain its shape when it's laced up. So I got this old dress shirt. It has a lot less stretch in it, and I'm going to be lining the whole thing with this material. So I have pinned my corset pattern to the dress shirt, and I am cutting out the dress shirt to match that exact shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and start sewing it together. I'm sewing the image of the t-shirt on the inside, so that way I can get those unfinished edges flipped. And bear with me, I will show you what I mean better. I'm leaving both of the sides done as I sew together the top half of my shirt. Moving again really slowly because I want this to be perfect. And once I am done sewing the top and the bottom, I can flip it so that that printed image is on the outside now, and all of my edges are nice and clean. I'm just making sure that all of those edges are firmly pushed out because I don't want to have anything looking unfinished. Here I'm measuring out strips of fabric that I'm going to use for the boning as well as the enclosure. The length of these doesn't really matter because I'm going to cut them to size anyways, but I want them all to be the same thickness. So I'm just measuring out that they're all 1 inch thick, and then I am lightly tracing an outline so that I can use that as a guide for my scissors. I'm cutting all of these strips down, and then once they are all cut, I'm going to sew them together long ways, and then I'm going to flip them inside out so that way my seam is on the inside. So here I am carefully sewing them together. I want to make sure my stitches are even and long and not crooked at all, because you will see that when you flip it. Moving very slowly, but it's sped up. My first strip is done. I'm checking to make sure that it is clean, and then I'm moving on to the rest of them. So once I've done this 10 times over, I think that gave me enough fabric to use. So I have all of my little mini strips that I've already cut. These are all 2 inches long, and I'm using these for the enclosure in the back. I've cut these 2 square pieces that I'm using for the back of my corset, and I've done the same thing that I did with the front where I lined them with the dress shirt. And I'm pinning all of the enclosures in this loop shape so that way the tying can run through it. And again, I'm carefully making sure that everything is lined up and symmetrical, and that way when it's laced, it won't lace crooked. And once I'm happy with the way that looks, I'm going to go ahead and sew in those loops. Again, I'm going to move really slowly to make sure nothing moves when I have the pins out. And once this side is done, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side before I move on to work on my boning. So now I'm ready to start working on sewing in the pipes that are going to hold the boning into the corset. So these are again the same pieces of fabric that I made earlier, and I have placed them on the inside of the front of the corset. And I did that all just by eyeballing. There was no math that went into this. I didn't measure it. I just made sure that it was even on both sides. And I think this is really just a matter of personal preference, where you would like your boning to lay. And then make sure that when you're sewing them along the outside on both sides of the pipe, so that way you have that open tube for the boning to fit into. And you want to make sure that all of your stitching is strong and you don't leave any holes in it, because when that piping, when the boning goes in there, it's going to want to push away from the corset, and you don't want that. Once you're finished attaching all of these pipings to the back of the corset, it's going to look something like this. I'm removing the tops and bottoms of those pipes that I don't need anymore. I want to make sure that everything is really clean. And for my boning, I'm using wire ties. These wire ties are 24 inches long, so it's more than enough that I'll need. So I'm just cutting them down to size to fit inside of those boning pipes. And I've already gone ahead and done this. So all of my pieces are already in there. I'm going to make sure that they are nice, tight, and secure. So that way I can start fitting on the finishing outside ribbon. And for this ribbon, I'm using an extra piece of my t-shirt. I decided to use a t-shirt and not the dress shirt, because the t-shirt is a little bit more flexible and it'll be easier for me to get it around these corners. So once I'm happy with the way that looks, I'm going to go ahead and sew it in. I've done the exact same thing with the top side already, so that is clean and neat and all finished. So when I'm sewing in the bottom, I am just making sure that all of those little boning pieces are snug and secure inside of their pockets. I don't want it to hit my needle at all. So I'm being very careful, and then I'm actually back stitching on the pipes to make sure that the boning can't push through those stitches. So just an added precaution stitch, really. And that's just personal preference as well. And once I get through sewing down all of the boning pieces are all sewn in, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this side, and then I'm gonna flip it over and do the exact same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to lace it up and I am ready to go. If you like this tutorial, leave a comment and let me know so I can make more.